What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Coast to Coast. I'm Devin Caney, joined as always by Teddy Jenner and our guest host today, Pat Gregor. Pat, you had a pretty low-key weekend, huh?
Yeah, I basically slept in the press box on the weekend from Saturday to Sunday, calling 2 games, but it was an unreal weekend. We saw some great lacrosse, and we capped it off with the big game on Sunday evening. So, stellar weekend for myself. I know I don't mean to flex, but I had a good time.
No, you should absolutely flex. You crushed it. I think there were several references that you made on the broadcast that stood out to me, but the one in particular that I wanted to call you out on was the SpongeBob one. I forget which game it was in because there were so many. I can't even keep them straight. I don't know how you can. But you did an amazing job and always keep things interesting on the call. Let me just ask you guys, reflecting back on this past weekend's games, which game stood out to you as the most impactful? Teddy, let's start with you.
When you look at the grand scheme of things, I think Buffalo getting that loss out right now to the Toronto Rock is probably good for them. There's always that pressure of how long can you go undefeated, and will there be that undefeated season? Will they be the first? Well, now it's out of the way. They can forget about all that pressure. They understand the last few weeks they haven't been playing their best lacrosse. And that might be because they've been away from Banditland for a few of those games and playing in front of nobody up in Ontario. But now that that's out of the way, they can just focus on playing lacrosse. Everywhere they go now, they're going to be in front of thousands and thousands of fans. And I think now that team can just focus on what they do best. And that's have one of the best offenses in the National Lacrosse League, one of the most dynamic and exciting front five, and then one of the best goaltenders in the entire history of our game. So I think in the grand scheme of things, getting that loss out of the way for Buffalo was probably the best thing that could have happened to them.
All right, Pat, what about you?
Believe it or not, East Coast Patty, he's going to dip over to where Teddy's located. I'm going to talk about a Western Conference team, and I think the Calgary Roughnecks coming out with a big victory is huge because if they drop that game, stick a fork in them, they're done. But there was a lot of fight in that group. Christian Del Bianco, he's back. Insert Undertaker gif right here because now we're starting to see him play the way we're expecting him to play. Jesse King was an absolute beast. He was no way letting his team lose. And now, yes, they still have an uphill battle to climb, but the way the West is sitting with pretty much just San Diego sitting pretty at the top, I think anyone can really battle in this tight playoff race. Well, you could probably say that for both conferences. The standings, the way they are right now, it's an absolute meat grinder, and I can't wait.
It is. All right, which leads me to our first official segment. We're trying something new today, guys. It is time to hand out some grades. I've always wanted to be a teacher because of this. All right, so how it's going to work, we're going to do mid-season report cards. You can go macro or micro. So you can either pick a team and grade them on, maybe their performance from this past weekend, maybe their performance as of late, or a team's overall performance so far this season. You're going to give them a grade and explain why. So I can start us off here to set an example. And I know I'm probably going to make a lot of people who I work with a lot mad with this one. I am going to give the Philadelphia Wings a C for the overall season thus far. Now, what does a C mean? Well, it depends on what kind of student you were, how strict your parents were, how hard your school was. But overall, a C means you're mediocre, satisfactory. And that's exactly what the Wings 500 now record reflects. They have superstars, they have the talent. They've only beat teams that do not have a winning record. They're quickly becoming the most frustrating team to watch in the NLL because they should be a very fun and exciting team to watch. And I'm just not seeing that yet. So Wings, I'm sorry, I'm giving you a C. Step it up. Maybe you can improve your grade by the end of the season. Who knows?
I think a lot of people would agree with you that, especially the fact that they're probably arguably easily the most frustrating team to watch. They are Jekyll and Hyde of 2022. And I know Paul Day is going to do everything he can to try to right that ship. For me, I'm going to stay out best coast, west coast, go with the San Diego Seals. I'm going to give them a B+ right now. They're 6-1. They lost that first game of the season to Vancouver where Mitch Jones just went ham on them late and caused them to lose that first game. But since they've rattled off 6 straight, Frank Giuliano twice this year has allowed a team to only score 4 goals. His goals against is 7.4. Jeremy Noble is going to have an absolute career. Maybe the comeback player of the year for some, just all the struggles that happened with him in Colorado. And now he's sort of finding his home in San Diego. But overall, this team, when you look at how well Westberg is playing, and how well Austin Stotts is playing when we didn't think he'd even play at all. And then you got Trey Leclerc and Matt Keefe, and they're doing all of this without Casey Jackson out that front door. So if you look at the Seals and how they are playing out west, I give them a B+ because they can only get better from here. A couple of minor mishaps, but every time they've had a kind of a setback, someone has stepped up. This Seals team is something to be feared.
All right, Pat.
Well, first off, Teddy, how tough of a teacher are you? Only giving the Seals
I know.
a B+.
It is a pretty low grade.
They've been A. There's no way to go up.
Well, I mean, they deserve an A. They've studied hard. They've studied hard. They've passed all the quizzes.
I went to school with Patrick Merrill. There were times where he wasn't studying, so we got some room to grow. B+.
Okay.
Teddy's teaching at Harvard right now. That's where he's grading.
Harvard of the West,
clearly.
Claremont.
Yeah. Well, with my grade here, I'm going to go with a B+, and I'm going to give it to the Toronto Rock. And I think they brought their marks up with their biggest and toughest test at the midterm mark, acing it by beating the Buffalo Bandits. They've been a student that maybe has forgot they had a test, and maybe they missed a quiz here or there, or they forgot their favorite pencil to write their test, and they've kind of got themselves to a spot where, oh wait, my mark's not that great right now. I need to start picking it up. And their last two tests, they have absolutely crushed them. Nick Rose is playing like we know Nick Rose can play. Brad Cree is having a defensive player of the year season. The offense is buzzing. Tom Schreiber literally can't miss. He can't miss. And that's where the reference was coming from. He don't miss. And everyone else is chipping in on offense. Up and down that lineup, everyone's really starting to play well. And I think a lot of people anticipated this to be the Toronto Rock team that we expected at the start of the year. It just took them a couple of assignments and a couple of tests to pick their grades up. And as Teddy did say, there's a lot of room to improve for this group. And I think if you ask Jamie Dowick at the start of the year, he would be saying the team's got to pick it up. They've got to study a little more. And that's exactly what they did. They've put their hard hat on and they've gone to work, and they're starting to play the way we have all expected them to play.
Yeah, the Toronto Rock have clearly been studying their butts off because they've been playing incredibly. And yeah, Tom Schreiber, actually, really quick, when I talked to him when he played the Wings on the broadcast, I mentioned he kind of joked about how well he'd been playing and said it was his new dad strength. He just had a daughter with his wife. And like, he was joking, but the more I watch him play recently, the more I'm like, wait, what is this dad strength? Who else needs it?
Kyle Jackson, the same thing, right? He just had his second child and he went off this past week. So I'm buying dad strength.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not cheating, so can't knock a grade off. All right, our next segment, always fun, Burning Take, presented by Warrior. Teddy, do you want to start us off here?
I will. Pat kind of mentioned it already about how the West has the potential to be an absolute dogfight over the next few weeks leading into the playoffs come April. And my burning take is that the West will take all 4 spots for the playoffs. There won't be need for an Eastern crossover team. By the end of this weekend, Calgary could be 500. Philadelphia and Albany, the teams that would possibly be battling for that crossover spot, are both 500. And we just talked about the Philly struggles. So I truly believe that Calgary's going to turn things around. Vancouver's playing some of their best lacrosse yet. There's still some sort of air of hope that the Rush are going to turn things around. And if they do, that makes it even more tempting that all 4 Western spots will be filled. So my hot take, West gets 4, East gets 4, and we play this straight up.
All right. I can't disagree with you there. It makes sense. It checks out. I can't give you a hard time about that one. Pat, what about you?
Well, East Coast Patty has something.
No,
I'm just kidding. Again. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But I am going to stay on the East with my hot take here. And let's be honest. We know the Rookie of the Year race has come down to 2 players at this point, and it probably will. Reed Bowering has been electric for the Vancouver Warriors, and Jeff Teat, well, do I have to say anything more? Jeff Teat is Jeff Teat. But with that being said, there has to be 3 candidates, and I think the 3rd candidate will come in Ryan Terefenko from the Halifax Thunderbirds. He has jumped onto the scene, just 4 games played, but since he's come into this lineup, yes, Teddy, he has been unbelievable. And this guy has barely played box lacrosse. He's a freak athlete. He's averaging about like 9 loose balls a game. He already has 2 goals, 2 assists. He's a cause turnover machine. He wreaks havoc all over the floor, and he's finally figuring things out with that 2-man game because we know his athleticism is off the charts. One-on-one coverage, he is already becoming one of the best defenders at defending one-on-one. He is, yes, a little bit behind the 8 ball with only playing 4 games so far, but his impact in those 4 games have been phenomenal. And not only will he be a nominee for the Rookie of the Year, someday this guy will win a Transition Player of the Year award as well.
Wow.
Put that on
a
pin board, put it on the wall, and save it. Because I can't wait for that to come true.
East Coast Homer Patty always coming through. Love it. All right, my burning take is a little bit of a bigger picture, and I by no means mean this needs to be implemented this season, next season, even because for this take or opinion to happen, the players need to be paid full time, but there absolutely has to be more games in a National Lacrosse League season because of the parity. And I don't know why for this season, I'm noticing it a lot more. You know, sometimes, especially in a sport as fast as box lacrosse, you have one off night, you have one good night, and anything can happen. And yes, that makes it exciting. But I also think you just never know what's going to happen week in and week out. And I think for a team to really prove that they are the dominant winning team, they need to play more games. I mean, we're seeing Toronto Rock. Yeah, they're on a roll right now. They took down the Buffalo Bandits, who are undefeated. Things just happen week in, week out that you can't predict. And I think for a team to establish themselves and their talent, there has to be more games eventually.
Well,
so
here's a sidebar.
One day.
Here's a sidebar.
Yes.
That just kind of popped in my head. What if we keep the same amount of games for now as we slowly expand? Keep it at 18. Even go to 20 that we're bringing in Vegas next year. Keep it to 20. Shorten or keep the length of the schedule, but have teams play double headers every weekend. Play it Friday, Saturday. So that would test a team more to have the resilience and the fortitude and the strength to be able to play on back-to-back nights. That kind of tests teams more than just playing every other weekend.
Yeah.
Does that satisfy you?
I'm sure, yeah, there are a lot of factors that have to come to play. But yeah, like that, I think that would be a bigger test than the schedule that they have now. Not that what they have now isn't hard. I just think the parity is just insane.
I think, and maybe to build off what Devin's saying here, and I tend to agree in the terms of some of these teams near the bottom right now, like New York Riptide at 1-7. That's not a 1-7 team, and they're going to catch fire at some point this season, and it's just going to be too late. They're too far behind. But on the flip side, well, don't start so slow out of the gate. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword the way you slice it. But if you're going to add more games to the schedule, and you're going to have more Sunday fun day lacrosse, and maybe a little Thursday, maybe a Monday dabble here and there, I'm all in.
We got a Monday game coming up.
Yes, exactly. That's why I said it.
And a Thursday. Yeah. But yeah, I'm saying, make the Monday night games a regular thing. Make the Thursday night games a regular thing. Add more games to schedule eventually. That is my burning take. Save it. Pin that one to the board. Hopefully it comes true. I know it won't be anytime in the immediate future, but eventually. All right, guys, let's take a look at this upcoming weekend schedule. We've got another pretty packed weekend with 6 games starting Friday night at 7:30 with the ESPN game of the week. I will be there. Albany Firewolves versus Buffalo Bandits. That will be on ESPN News. Then we've got our TSN game of the week. Teddy, you will be there. Vancouver at Calgary. Tune into TSN 2 at 10 p.m. That's Lacrosse After Dark on Friday night. Saturday, we have Georgia at Halifax and Toronto at Albany. And then, Pat, you mentioned the Sunday lacrosse. We've got 2 Sunday afternoon, evening, 5 p.m. Eastern games. So 2 teams playing 2 games this weekend with a little break day in between them. So what do you guys think? What are your takeaways from this schedule? What are you most excited for? Teddy, I don't know if you're allowed to choose your TSN game of the week.
No, I'm gonna stick with that TSN game, but I'm gonna parlay it with the second half of that doubleheader for Calgary to see how they travel from playing Friday night against Vancouver at home, then have to go all the way down to Fort Worth the next day and then play on a Sunday. That's not an easy travel. Sure, they get that full travel day, but it's not going to be easy with everything that's going on with COVID and delays and all that stuff. I'm interested to see how they handle themselves this weekend. If they can put 2 wins together, like I said in my hot take, get to 500, they can really start to reset the system and start moving forward. So I'm very interested to see how Calgary handles themselves and competes in 2 games that are extremely huge, being interconference and a chance for them to really right the ship and go on a bit of a winning streak here.
All right, Pat, what about you?
Just call me West Coast Patty now, because I'm going to another Western Conference game. Saskatchewan and Colorado. And this is a big game for both. I think a lot of people were really excited to see what they had with this Colorado team, the dynamic offense, Dylan Ward, the defense, everything really come together, and then they take an L. So I'm looking forward to see what they can do bouncing back. But the big thing for me, and Devin, I did chirp you. I did say that was the craziest thing I've ever heard. But when you said Saskatchewan was going to miss the playoffs, I thought you were crazy. Mm-hmm. Now it's starting to look like it very much could be true. And I think if they lose here in this game, there's a chance we just see Derek Keenan press the blow up mode and trade all his restricted free agents and start from scratch. Because Teddy, he is not afraid to do that. And that's how he's built dynasties before. So that's something that I'm looking for. But if they win, I know I've already used this reference. I'll say it again. Insert Undertaker gif here, because now all of a sudden they've got confidence back. They got swagger back. And with the way the East is standing right now, they could easily get back into this thing.
All right, guys, that does it for this episode of Coast to Coast. Pat, thanks so much for joining us. Looking forward to another exciting weekend of lacrosse action around the NLM.